You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Feel like who Art Ed?
We'll try to slice it.
Who Art is Mr. Wood, Art Ed me.
Good. Either way, it's ambiguous. It works on so many levels.
I know.
That's off to a great start.
Welcome to Who Arted, weekly art history for all ages. I'm your host, Kyle Wood, and today we're looking at the life and work of Tamara de Lempicka. She's often called the Queen of Art Deco, and her life was pretty much as dramatic as her paintings. While she famously fabricated details about her life to maintain an air of mystery, she was likely born Maria Gorska around 1898. She claimed she was born in Warsaw, Poland, but historical records suggest she was actually born in Moscow, Russia. And she grew up in a wealthy, aristocratic environment surrounded by art and culture. But that all ended in 1917 with the outbreak of the Russian Revolution. During the revolution, the Bolsheviks targeted the wealthy elite. Tamara's new husband, a lawyer named Tamara de Lempicka, was arrested by the secret police in the middle of the night. This was the moment Maria Gorska began to transform into Tamara de Lempicka. She spent weeks navigating the chaotic political landscape, using her social connections and charm to secure her husband's release. Once he was free, they fled Russia as refugees. They left behind their fortune and eventually arrived in Paris, but they had almost nothing. The family struggled financially because Thaddeus was unable to find work. Tamara realized that if they were going to survive, she would have to become the breadwinner. She decided to become a painter and enrolled at the Académie de la Grande Chaumière. There she studied under Maurice Denis and the Cubist painter André Lahaut. Lahaut taught her a sort of soft Cubism style that would become her signature, blending the geometric angles of modernism with the soft, polished looks of Renaissance paintings. Of course, being great at painting is one thing, but to be a great artist, you need a good story and publicity. Tamara was a master of self-promotion. She understood that to sell art to the rich, she had to seem like one of them. She crafted a persona of a glamorous, aloof aristocrat. She changed her name to sound more noble and often lied about her age to appear younger. Later, in 1934, she married her second husband, Baron Raoul Kufner, officially gaining the title of Baroness. She wanted the world to view her as royalty, and she worked tirelessly to maintain that image. This dedication to her career and social standing came at a huge cost in her personal life. Specifically, it had to have strained her relationship with her daughter, Cosette. And Cosette was born shortly after the Lempickas fled Russia. While Tamara painted many tender portraits of Cosette, she was not a traditional mother. She was often consumed by her work and the high society party circuit of the Roaring Twenties. Cosette was frequently left with her grandmother, and when she did visit her mother, Tamara would sometimes introduce the girl as her younger sister. She was afraid that admitting she had a nearly grown daughter would reveal her true age and damage her reputation. Needless to say, it was complicated in the family, but Cosette remained fiercely loyal, acting as her mother's assistant and biographer. In 1939, Tamara sensed another political tide turning in Europe. Just before the outbreak of World War II, she moved to the U.S., eventually settling in Beverly Hills, California. She moved into a mansion formerly owned by the film director King Vidor and quickly became the favorite artist of the Hollywood stars. Her style was very cinematic, with dramatic lighting that really resonated with the film industry. She became a fixture in Hollywood society, but as time went on, abstract expressionism became the dominant style, and her Art Deco work kind of just fell out of fashion. Tamara de Lempicka spent her final years in Mexico, and when she passed away, she really wanted to go out with that same sort of dramatic style she had in her life and her work. In 1980, she was cremated, and her daughter Cosette fulfilled Tamara's last wish, hiring a helicopter to scatter her ashes in the crater of an active volcano. Now, I want to take a moment to look at one of her most famous paintings. It's titled Auto Portrait, but it's more commonly known as Tamara in a Green Bugatti. It was painted in 1929, and it was commissioned for the cover of a German fashion magazine. It's widely considered to be one of the most iconic images of the Art Deco movement. So before I get more into the work, I want to talk just a little bit generally about Art Deco. It was really popular in the 1920s and 30s, celebrating the dawn of the modern machine age. It focused on glamour, luxury, but also it was very orderly and precise. You see a lot that's very geometric. All movements seem to be a little bit built off what came before, but also a rejection of what came before. So Art Deco is kind of a hard break from the flowery, organic curves of the Art Nouveau style that had been popular earlier. Instead, it embraced sleek, symmetrical forms and bold geometry. We see a lot of zigzags, sunbursts, chevrons, and stepped patterns. It was meant to be all about the optimism and progress, sort of that spirit of the Roaring Twenties. So in Art Deco, we see a lot sort of drawing off of expensive, exotic materials like ivory, jade, and lacquer. But it also celebrates like industrial materials, chrome, stainless steel, and plastic. Now, this painting shows Tamara herself in the driver's seat of a racing car. She's wearing a close-fitting leather flying helmet and driving gloves, wrapped in a gray scarf that flutters in the wind. She looks out at the viewer. She seems cool, confident, and completely in control. The visual style of this painting is really what we think of with Lempicka's work. The lines are sharp and clean, focusing on geometry and structure rather than soft realism. The lighting feels artificial, very harsh, stark, bold, making her skin look almost metallic like chrome in the car she's driving. The color palette is all these cool grays, creams, and then that striking, bright, bold electric green at the car door. It's interesting because it's kind of a mix of fact and fantasy, much like the rest of her life. We see the spirit of the, quote, new woman, as they were called in the 1920s, independent, liberated, and embracing technology. In this era, a woman driving a high-performance car was a powerful symbol of freedom and independence. But the painting is sort of like Instagram before there was Instagram. I mean, it's highly curated and suggests something maybe a little more glamorous than her actual life. The title implies she was driving a Bugatti, the fastest, most expensive car of the day. Obviously, a major status symbol, but in reality, Tamara drove a small yellow Renault. When she was asked about this discrepancy, she admitted she just felt the yellow car was not elegant enough for the composition. She wanted the prestige of the Bugatti to match the prestige she felt she deserved. And when an artist creates a self-portrait, they're not just showing us their likeness, they're showing us something about who they are more than how they look. In this painting, we see sort of a declaration that she's in the driver's seat, choosing her own destiny. She isn't a passive muse for a male artist. She's the creator, the subject, and the master of her own image. It's a powerful statement, and that's probably why it's endured as a symbol of her legacy. A little cold, but beautiful, and relentlessly modern.
This concludes this week's episode of Who Arted, part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. If you found this tolerable, please leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast app. You can find images of the work being discussed this week and every week on social media at Who Arted Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and of course on the website whoartedpodcast.com. Podcast done.